You've worked hard for decades. You've saved, you've planned, and now you're looking at retirement. Maybe you're already there, or just a few years away. But here's a question I want you to sit with for a moment. What if a single decision you made, or your kids are about to make, quietly stole more than $1 million from your family's future? Not a stock market crash, not a medical emergency. Something that felt completely normal at the time. Buying a home. I'm not talking about a bad investment. I'm talking about the home you or your children bought as first-time buyers, the one that seemed affordable back then, the one the lender approved without blinking. Today, I'm going to show you how that one choice, stretching just a little more for the bigger house, can cost a first-time buyer $1.2 million by the time they turn 65. And if you have adult children who are buying their first home right now, this might be the most important conversation you ever have with them. Let's start with why this matters to you. You might be thinking, I already own my home. Why does this matter to me? 3 reasons. First, you may have children or grandchildren who are first-time buyers, and the advice you give them or don't give them will shape their retirement decades from now. Second, you might be considering downsizing yourself. The same math applies. A smaller home today could free up hundreds of thousands of dollars for your own retirement. Third, many retirees look back and wonder, why don't I have more saved? Sometimes the answer isn't bad spending habits. It's the home you bought 30 years ago. So even if you're not buying today, understanding this mistake helps you protect the people you love, and it might give you peace of mind about your own past choices. Now, let me show you exactly how the math works. Most first-time buyers get approved for a mortgage that's at the very top of their budget. The lender runs the numbers, they say, you qualify for $700,000. And the buyer thinks, great, that's what I can afford. But here's what the lender doesn't tell you. That number isn't designed for your long-term wealth. It's designed to maximize what you can borrow without defaulting. There's a giant gap between the bank says yes and this is smart for your future. And that gap is where the $1.2 million disappears. Let me explain with a simple example. A first-time buyer, age 30, gets approved for a $700,000 home. But instead, they choose a home that costs $560,000. That's 20% less. Their monthly mortgage payment drops by about $700. That's real money. Now, what if they took that $700 every month and invested it instead of spending it on a bigger house? Not into fancy cars, not into vacations, just a simple, low-cost stock and bond portfolio. A quick assumption, we're using a 7% annual return. That's a reasonable long-term average for a balanced mix of stocks and bonds. Past performance doesn't guarantee the future, but it gives us a realistic picture. Over 35 years, from age 30 to age 65, that $700 a month earning a conservative 7% grows to $1.2 million. That's not a typo. $700 a month, 35 years, 7%, $1.2 million. And that's the mistake most first-time buyers never see coming. They walk into a beautiful kitchen with granite countertops, they feel proud, they post a photo online, and they have no idea they just traded $1.2 million for those countertops. Let me give you a real-world couple. We'll call them Sarah and Jake. They're 30 years old, combined income of $150,000. Good jobs, no kids yet. They go to a lender and get approved for a $700,000 mortgage. The lender says, you can comfortably afford this. So they start looking, and they find 2 homes. Home A costs $700,000. It's beautiful, open floor plan, upgraded finishes, big backyard, perfect for starting a family. Home B costs $560,000. It's smaller, the kitchen is dated, no granite, but it's in the same neighborhood, same school district, same safety, it just needs some love. Sarah loves Home A. Jake feels nervous about the payment, but the lender said they could afford it, so they buy Home A. Fast forward 35 years, they're both 65, ready to retire. Their house is paid off, but their retirement portfolio is smaller than they hoped. Why? Because for 35 years, that extra $700 a month went to the mortgage, property taxes, higher insurance, and more expensive maintenance. It never got invested. Now, let's rewind and imagine they bought Home B instead. Same 35 years, same jobs, same income. But they take that $700 monthly difference and invest it automatically. No willpower required, just an automatic transfer. At age 65, they still own a home. It's paid off, and they have an extra $1.2 million in their retirement account. We're also assuming a 4% safe withdrawal rate. That's the classic rule of thumb for a 30-year retirement. That $1.2 million can generate about $48,000 a year in safe retirement income using a 4% withdrawal rate. That's $48,000 every year for the rest of their lives, on top of Social Security, on top of whatever else they saved. That's the difference between a comfortable retirement and a tight one, between helping grandkids with college and saying, sorry, we can't afford it, between traveling while they're healthy and staying home because the budget won't allow a flight. One choice, one house, $1.2 million. Now, you might be thinking, that's a big number, but is it realistic? Yes, and let me show you why. The key is something called compound growth. It's the most powerful force in personal finance, and it's also the most invisible. Here's how it works. When you invest $700 a month, the first year you put in $8,400. That money earns a return, say 7%, which adds about $588. The second year, you put in another $8,400. But now you're earning returns on the first year's money plus the returns from the first year. That's compounding. Your money starts making money, and then that money makes more money. After 10 years, you've put in $84,000. But with compounding, your account is closer to $124,000. After 20 years, you've put in $168,000, but your account is worth about $370,000. After 30 years, you've put in $252,000, but your account is over $850,000. And after 35 years, you've put in $294,000 of your own money, but with compounding, it grows to $1.2 million. That's a 4-to-1 return on your contributions. Every dollar you invested turned into $4. The bigger house didn't do that. The bigger house gave you more square footage that you stopped noticing after 6 months. The granite counters that became normal. The extra bedroom that sat empty. Meanwhile, the invested money kept working every day, every year for 3.5 decades. That's the hidden cost of stretching your budget. It's not the payment today. It's the future wealth that payment steals. Now, most people think they understand this. They say, sure, a cheaper house means more savings, but they miss 3 critical layers. Let me walk you through each one. Hidden mistake number 1. The cost of the bigger house isn't just the mortgage. When you buy a more expensive home, almost every other cost goes up too. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, utilities, maintenance, repairs. A bigger roof costs more to replace. Bigger yards cost more to landscape. More square footage costs more to heat and cool. Financial planners call these phantom costs. They don't show up on your lender's approval letter, but they show up in your monthly budget forever. And unlike your mortgage, most of these costs never go away even after the house is paid off. So the real monthly difference between a $700,000 home and a $560,000 home is often $900 to $1,000, not just $700. That extra $200 to $300 a month invested over 35 years grows to another $350,000 to $500,000. Now we're talking about a total difference of $1.5 million or more. Hidden mistake number 2. The bigger house locks you into a higher spending baseline. Here's something psychologists have known for decades. Humans adapt to whatever we have incredibly fast. When you buy a bigger, nicer home, within 6 months, it stops feeling special. It's just your normal life. But your monthly payment stays high. And that high payment forces you to make other trade-offs you don't even notice. You take the slightly lower paying job because you can't afford a pay cut. You delay starting a business because you need the steady paycheck. You say no to a career change that would make you happier but pay less for a few years. The expensive home doesn't just cost you money, it costs you freedom. And that freedom is what allows you to build real wealth over time, not just from investments, but from better career choices, side businesses, and the ability to take smart risks. Hidden mistake number 3. The bigger house increases your risk of running out of money in retirement. This is the one that scares me the most, and it's the reason I'm making this video. When you approach retirement, your number one risk isn't poor investment returns. It's fixed expenses that are too high. Because if the stock market drops 20% the year you retire, and that happens about once every 6 years, you have 2 choices. You can withdraw less money, or you can withdraw the same amount and watch your portfolio shrink faster than it can recover. If your fixed expenses are low, you can easily withdraw less. But if you're stretched thin from a big mortgage and high property taxes, you have no flexibility. That lack of flexibility is what causes retirees to run out of money. Not a single bad investment, a house payment they made 30 years earlier. Think about that. A decision you make at age 30, when you're young and healthy and full of optimism, can quietly determine whether you outlive your savings at age 85. That's not fear-mongering, that's math. Now, let me give you a simple framework. If you're talking to your children or grandchildren about buying their first home, share these 3 rules. Rule number 1, ignore the lender's maximum approval number. Treat that number like a speed limit in a school zone. It's the absolute maximum you should ever go, not the target. Instead, ask, what payment leaves me with at least 20% of my take-home pay for saving and investing? For most first-time buyers, that means buying a home that's 15 to 25% less than the lender's maximum. Rule number 2, run the future wealth calculation before you make an offer. Take the monthly difference between the expensive home and a modest one. Multiply that difference by 12. Then go to any compound interest calculator online. It's free. Plug in that annual amount. Use 7% return. Use 35 years. See the number. That number is the true cost of the bigger house. If you're okay with that trade-off, great, but at least make the decision with your eyes open. Rule number 3, buy the home that gives you flexibility, not the one that looks best on Instagram. A smaller home in a great neighborhood almost always beats a bigger home in a merely good neighborhood. And a home that leaves room in your budget beats any countertop upgrade. Remind them, you can renovate a kitchen, you can add a bathroom, you can paint any wall any color. But you cannot go back in time and invest that $700 a month for 35 years. Time is the only asset you can't buy more of. Let me paint a picture of 2 retirees. Richard bought the bigger house at 30. He stretched his budget to the max. Every month, his payment ate up 35% of his take-home pay. He saved what he could, but it wasn't much. At 65, his house is paid off. He owns a beautiful home, but his retirement portfolio is just $300,000. Social Security gives him another $2,500 a month. His property taxes are $8,000 a year. Insurance is $2,000. Utilities are high. He has to be careful. Very careful. One big roof repair and he's in trouble. He wants to take a trip to see his grandkids across the country, but the flight is $600. He can't really afford it. He stays home. Now, meet Theresa. She bought the modest home at 30. Same neighborhood, same schools, but her payment was 22% of her take-home pay. She invested the difference. At 65, her home is also paid off. Her property taxes are $4,500 a year, half of Richard's. Her portfolio is $1.5 million. She takes the trips, she helps her grandkids with college, she sleeps well at night, knowing a market downturn won't break her. Both made one choice at age 30. Both worked hard, both did everything else right, but Richard is stressed. Theresa is free. That's the future warning. The house you or your children choose today doesn't just affect this year's budget, it affects every single year after that, all the way to the end. I want to be very clear about something. I'm not saying everyone should buy the smallest, cheapest house they can find, and I'm not saying a nice home is a bad thing. What I am saying is this. Every financial decision is a trade-off, and the trade-off for a bigger, more expensive home is often decades of your freedom. First-time buyers don't see that trade-off because they're young. 65 feels like a different universe. They think, I'll earn more later, I'll save more later. But later comes faster than anyone expects. And when it arrives, the money you didn't save in your 30s can't be replaced by working harder in your 50s. The compounding window is closed. So if you're talking to a young person you love, a child, a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, share this with them. Not to scare them, to free them. Because the goal of personal finance isn't to die with the biggest house on the block. The goal is to live a life where money is never the reason you say no to something that matters. And that freedom is almost always built on one simple decision: choosing the home that's enough, not the home that's everything. Here's what I'd like you to do after watching this. If you have a first-time buyer in your life, send them this video. Or better yet, sit down with them and walk through the math together. One conversation today could save them $1 million and a decade of worry. And if you'd like more videos like this on helping your family build real, lasting wealth without the hype, I post new ones every week. Consider subscribing. It's free, and it might be the most valuable gift you give the people you love. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, and take care of the ones who matter most.